go with Crank 'em Up in between horses. Along the inside is Dutch Canyon, and out a bit wide, a Light Bulb. They were the leading line of three. They're being followed closely by Joey Steele, the red cap over to the inside. One of the market principals keeps company with another Supreme Steel, the maroon and white stripes, as they take off at the second fence. That was an open ditch. They're all over it safely. Wider out on the track is Freddie Darling, the yellow cap with the maroon star, as they now come up and over the third. Over towards the inside goes the Grey Atlantic Way. Strategic black and white colours at the back of the field, with only Bobby the Dazzler in black and green behind. So leaving the back straight on the opening occasion of three, and it is Dutch Canyon and Crank 'em Up, the leading pair, as they cross the Paxton's fence. Once again, Dutch Canyon just a little more slickly across. Back in third, quite close at the moment, against the rails Joey Steele, with in between horses Supreme Steel, and out wide a Light Bulb, the blue sleeves. As they now head to the first of two plain fences in the home straight, it looks as if Freddie Darling's being pulled up. Something has gone amiss with Freddie Darling, and that one is out of the race from an early stage. All of the others have landed safely over the first fence in the home straight, and now downhill towards the Johnny Ridley obstacle right in front of the enclosures. And it is Crank 'em Up towards the outside of Dutch Canyon. Crank 'em Up now going on in between fences from Dutch Canyon, around about a half length between the pair. 4 lengths back in third is Joey Steele. Then comes Supreme Steel from Light Bulb, Grey Atlantic Way, Strategic, and Bobby the Dazzler. Over the next. All across safely and up past us for the first time. There would be around about 12 lengths covering first to last. And up ahead, still a real match-up front here between on the inside Dutch Canyon and on the outside Crank 'em Up, as they swing away from us and on now towards the fence along the roadside. Freddie Darling has been dismounted by Sean Bowen. Hopefully that horse is okay as they come over the next. All safely across, the leading two just having a bit of a coming together, and now the field grouping up together much more. And it is Crank 'em Up, the red cap, on the outside of Dutch Canyon. They are still the two disputants, being chased only 2 lengths away now by, along the inside, Joey Steele, Light Bulb towards the outer, and Supreme Steel in between horses. A mistake further back there from Grey Atlantic Way, who was completely outjumped by Strategic, and Bobby the Dazzler remains the back marker, racing through the completion of the opening circuit, and now on towards fence number 9. And all taking that safely. Not for the first time. Joey Steele has just caught the eye with his jumping, and not for good reasons either. He reached for one in the home straight, and he reached for that also. But no great harm done. Still a very long way to go as they come to tackle another. And all safely over it. Bobby the Dazzler was a little bit clumsy that time. So heading on away from that open ditch, and now on towards another plain one. And Crank 'em Up that time was more fluent than Dutch Canyon, who just seemed to back off the fence somewhat and landed a couple of lengths adrift, with back in behind them Light Bulb, who races wider out of Joey Steele and Supreme Steel. They're being followed next by Strategic from Grey Atlantic Way and Bobby the Dazzler. Hitting halfway and now coming to the Paxton's fence up at the top of the hill once again. All landing safely, only 7 or 8 lengths now covering first to last. And it is Crank 'em Up and John Kington bringing them back in line for the 2 fences in the home straight. Dutch Canyon is in second. Joey Steele in third now along the inside of Light Bulb, and still up in between those two is Supreme Steel as they come to jump the first fence in the home straight. All landing safely enough, and down the hill they gallop towards the Johnny Ridley fence, which in another circuit of the track will be their last. And it is Crank 'em Up over towards the inside of Dutch Canyon. The field about to move on past Freddie Darling, who of course pulled up at a very early stage. He's being led back towards the stabling areas, but up ahead, as they come to the Johnny Ridley, Crank 'em Up and Dutch Canyon. Crank 'em Up, Dutch Canyon, they've been exchanging the lead throughout, and still precious little between them, with Light Bulb now coming a little closer on the outside under Brian Hughes. Supreme Steel in between horses and Joey Steele to the rails. Racing next is Strategic, and then Grey Atlantic Way, who's been patiently ridden by Henry Brooke, who looks for a double on the day, as of course does Strategic's rider Danny McMenamin. The back marker on heading away from us still, Bobby the Dazzler. Fence number 15 of 22 coming up, and all crossing it safely, with in front Dutch Canyon, now travelling perhaps a bit better than Crank 'em Up, who's ridden along towards the inside but is keeping up the pace. Crank 'em Up responding. Crank 'em Up back on into a half-length advantage over Dutch Canyon. They've had the race to themselves from the start, with in behind them still that line of three, Joey Steele, Supreme Steel and Light Bulb. They're being chased through by Strategic, with in behind those Grey Atlantic Way and Bobby the Dazzler, despite being the back marker, only 7 lengths off the pace as they now come to the 17th. This is again plain, and it was Crank 'em Up to Dutch Canyon, with away to the outside Light Bulb. Along the inside, the red cap of Joey Steele. Supreme Steel is still travelling powerfully. Strategic only 3 lengths off the pace as they now come to the final open ditch. This is fence number 18. And the back couple to take it were Grey Atlantic Way and Bobby the Dazzler. They now race on towards the final fence over in the back straight. This is a pretty wide open race at this point. Dutch Canyon and Crank 'em Up are still the leading pair, but that's about to change because Supreme Steel under Aaron Anderson is coming there strongly, Friday's Hexham winner. With back in behind them Joey Steele along the inside of Strategic, who could still play a big part. On the outside is Light Bulb, and they're being followed by Grey Atlantic Way and Bobby the Dazzler. Coming to the third fence from home, and it's a packing field. Joey Steele now jumping through well along the inside to move through and narrowly take over from Crank 'em Up and Dutch Canyon. Further back to Grey Atlantic Way, then Strategic. Very quickly off the bridle is Supreme Steel, who's lost places. Further back to Bobby the Dazzler, and Light Bulb are now flickering at the back as they come down towards the second last fence. Still many chances here. Joey Steele towards the inside of Crank 'em Up and Dutch Canyon. Both of those are very game. They've been up there throughout. Supreme Steel is picking up away to the far left. The grey horse is Grey Atlantic Way, who's screaming for a little bit of racing room, as is Strategic, making the run down towards the final fence. And at the end of almost 3.5 miles, we've got a few with chances, but it's Grey Atlantic Way who's now got to the front and quickly moves away. Grey Atlantic Way with a decisive turn of foot comes to the final fence, has only to jump it, and he does. Second place, and down is Supreme Steel. That has left Crank 'em Up and Dutch Canyon to fight out second and third, but in the end it's a facile win for Grey Atlantic Way, a double on the card for Henry Brook. Crank 'em Up was second, very tight for third. Strategic to the outside of a never nearer Bobby the Dazzler. Dutch Canyon tiring in between horses,